where does this concept of how much control do you give, like, where do you see that going? Could it cause a problem?
Yeah, I think any brand has that challenge or that danger that you could just dilute it. Everyone's chasing more numbers, right? You're chasing like a larger market. So you just have to be careful to manicure your brand and keep true to who you are before you're chasing like the Walmart deal or being in Target or Costco. Like, I think that has to be really strategic. And for us, like, it will always be somewhat of comfort in the outdoors or comfort away from home. Like, that is what we're about.
Welcome to the Backcountry Marketing Podcast. Today I'm sitting down with MJ Carroll. She is the brand director for HEST. MJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Cole. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, it's starting to be summer around here, so enjoying all the activities and staying busy with work, so it's great.
Well, I'm excited to dive into our topic for today. When you and I connected on our intro call, you had posed a really interesting concept or dynamic. This question of, as a brand director, how much do I control the brand and how much do I let the community help build and dictate the brand? And I think that's a really fascinating question and one that probably doesn't have a very clear-cut answer. But I'd love to kind of dig into that with you and see if we can provide some ideas, some answers for folks who maybe have similar questions as they're managing and guiding their own brands. So I guess the first question to kick us off, why is this something you think about?
That's a great question to start off. Yeah, I've been spinning around a lot with it ever since I started with HEST, to be honest. So HEST started in 2019 by Aaron and Buskey in Seattle, just out of the pain point of not being able to sleep well in the outdoors. I was able to jump in on board with HEST at a really early stage of the brand, and kind of lead what the brand vision was going to be. They had a great starting platform. They already had a tagline, but really I've seen the development of this brand from the inception to where it is today. I think that there's just a lot of balance between your vision and then also learning from your community.
Mm,
Um, and then more recently, since you and I talked, I've been listening to the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, which is just about letting go of control and let them do what they want to do. You don't have to control everything. And this speaks to all avenues of life. It's not just being a brand director, but it's being in relationship, it's being in friendship, it's working with coworkers. It's just letting people bring their ideas and their actions to the table and letting them do what they want to do and not letting yourself have to control that. So I think that's just an important factor to consider in life, like in work and outside of work.
interesting. Okay, there's a number of things we could dig in there. I guess first though, back up. So over the last few years, as you've been stewarding the brand, what are specific intersections that you have questioned? Gosh, how much do I control? How much do I not control? Could you frame that around specific examples? You mentioned content as one. What are some others?
Yeah, I think content is a great place to just kind of dive deeper and dissect there. Is that I come from the action sports industry. I come from the era of the Yeti curated videos and just having to have these beautiful, I come from the ski industry, just having beautiful ski acting and deep powder and just this frothy content that just makes you want to go do these action sports. Where then I come to the crossroads of UGC content, which can be just it's authentic, yes, and it's unfiltered, but it's just so far different from what I was used to in my past career that I think that kind of just hit me at that crossroads of okay, maybe I don't need this beautifully curated content. I need to listen to the community, and people want to talk to people. They want to be relatable. So I've just kind of had to adapt to that. I think all of us in marketing, that UGC just came in really fast and was so far different from what we were used to, and embracing that and being able to be okay, yeah, let's give this product to this person who we don't know and see how they use it and see how they film it and then test it and see how it works and see how it performs. And not having this control of like, okay, I need you to shoot it in this light at this setting and say this, and here's the script. Like, instead, it's like, hey, here's our product. We like what you do on your channel. Like, show us how you use it and we'll share it and see how it goes, kind of. So, just kind of like having the freedom and just ability to like let go of that control and let it go. So, I think content is a great place to start. I think if anyone's worked at a startup, you just have to let go of control because there's so many outside factors that happen that you're building this brand. There's so many different changes that come. I mean, startup is just full of dynamics of ups and downs and changes. And you thought you would do this, and then you do this instead. Growing the team is all the different things. So I think there's that. I think that there's always like that central theme of like who we are and who we want to be has to be true to all of us. I mean, before I started working at HEST, I always thought brand was, defined by the marketing team. But being in a startup, I really realized that brand is defined by the whole team, like from every touch point. So customer service, website interaction, what they get in their delivery and the package, the packaging, like everything. I mean, that's just so all encompassing of brand. And when you're building a brand, all those touch points matter from the entire team, not just the marketing department.
Mm, yeah. Was there a particular piece of content in the last few years that was one of those kind of intersection crossroads where you came to the table anticipating or expecting or wanting something different, only to then realize that maybe something that you hadn't even considered was actually the best route forwards? You have an example of that?
Can't think of like a particular one. It just seemed like the flood of UGC came in like so fast, like that, like selfie. I'm standing in a closet, like not a great place, and I'm talking about gear. Like it just felt so out of context to me. Like, or, in a garage and they weren't even out on the adventure. Like it just felt like, but again, it was real and authentic and it was real people talking to real people about their experiencing using this. So, I think at first it was just coming in so fast, like so many that I was like, okay, this is the trend. We're going with it, and just letting go of it. So I can't say particularly like any piece of content that I can think of that we produce particularly on the brand side that I was like, this is different. I think it's more just that flood of UGC content.
Yeah, gotcha. What is this theory of letting go, or what's this book you're referencing?
Mel Robbins, she's a really popular podcaster and author, but she just talks about let them theory. And it's again, I think that all of us hold these expectations in work, in relationship, every day when you're just timing out your day and how you want it to go. But in reality, like your day doesn't always go the way that you want it to. And that is inflicted by other people's decisions and the way they want their lives to go and their expectations for the day. So when you kind of have that conflict of like what you want and what your vision is and what they have their vision of and your expectations are let down, you hold the power within yourself to just let that go. So you're letting go of the control of your expectations and you're giving permission to that person or that situation to just play out.
Yeah. That's something I've learned working with editors all the time, is the dynamic between how much do you guide, how much do you let them run with the direction?
Totally.
And there's a balance for sure where sometimes you have to step in and say, no, I think we've gotten off track. But there's another side of it all where you let the editor just run with it. And like if it's not breaking the vision of or the goal or the intention of the project and they have a different solution than I do, I find that it's best to give them the authority to make that call and to let us run with it. The trick is like, how do you know in your case, how do you know when you've given too much rope, or when the creative control has gone too far and it's now way out of bounds? What are some of those lines in the sand that you have discovered that you try and stick to?
I think that like a founding or like a North Star for HEST has always been product, like the features and the way that it was developed and the intended use has always been really like a guiding light for HEST. I mean, the founder, Aaron Buskey, is a product genius. That's his thing. He loves to develop and design products. So anytime that like our products are kind of taken out of context, and is not used properly or is not for the intended purpose of trying to sleep better in the outdoors, that's definitely like a line in the sand for me. Like, okay, like this is not actually the intended use of this. So it's pretty rudimentary, like, honestly, like, just the intended use of the product, I think, is big, but I think just, like, making sure that we're being, like, an inviting and encompassing brand that's just, we're not intimidating. I don't wanna be an intimidating brand at all. I like to think that we're activity agnostic, like, as long as you're going outdoors and enjoying nature, we want you to enjoy it however that is. As long as you're like we want it to be a good steward of the land, like we do believe in, just being good stewards when you're outdoors, appreciating public lands. So, we do have values. I would say kind of our boundaries are product and values and just being a good person and a good brand and showing up that way.
Is there any part of you that's concerned that over time down the road that the brand could become too diluted? And I guess I ask that because genuinely curious. Where does this concept of how much control do you give? Like, where do you see that going? Could it cause a problem?
Yeah, I think any brand has that challenge or that danger that you could just dilute it if you're going everyone's chasing more numbers, right? You're chasing like a larger market. And we've started out at HEST, kind of defaulted into this growing overland community that's just kind of really grown robustly in the last 5 to 10 years. And we really found a niche in that. And it's been really successful for us. And then we've expanded more. Obviously, we're camping, that kind of goes hand in hand. But I feel like overlanding is this really tight community within the larger camping sector. And then we launched our Pro Travel Pillow, which has got us more into travel. I think that that's always like the people that go camping are likely going to do adventure travel as well. So I feel like we play in a lot of similar categories, but then I just feel like there's always, you're always chasing that like mainstream, like how can I get more eyeballs? How can I get larger reach? So you just have to be careful to manicure your brand and keep true to who you are before you're chasing like the Walmart deal or being in Target or Costco. Like, I think that that has to be really strategic. I'm not saying that it's not wrong for every brand to get in there and test it and get more visuals, but I just think that you just have to come back to your values and just be true to who you are and what you stand for. And for us, like, it will always be somewhat of comfort in the outdoors or comfort away from home. Like, that is what we're about. So, which is pretty broad reaching when you think about it. But we just want to bring the comforts of home to the outdoors or wherever you roam or journey, whether that's like on an airplane or a car or a train or a boat. Which can be broad, but I think that if we hold true to who we are and our features and our premium brand, like, I don't think that we're threatened by, diluting it. I think we just need to stay true to that.
So by the time this episode comes out, the previous episode is an episode we did with Chris Burkard, and one of the things he and I talked about was this idea how good tension is around ideas in the marketing department, in the creative department. And the idea is that if everyone thinks that the idea is great, then it's actually probably not a very good idea. But you need tension. You need someone to be opposed to it. You need someone who doesn't like it because that means that hopefully it actually it's there's something to it. There's depth. There's something creative about it. There's something that rubs people the right way and some rubs other people the wrong way. And I'm curious if you can speak more to that tension that sometimes you feel. How do you navigate through that with your team? And yeah, how do you determine, is this just my personal feeling? What is right for the brand? What is quote unquote right for MJ? Like, how do you discern between those?
Definitely. Yeah, we talk about tension a lot on our team too. So in the marketing department, there's actually just only two of us, myself, Bran, and then my coworker John is the director of digital. And so our boss, Aaron, always talks about how there should be tension between us. I'm very grateful. John and I work phenomenally together. I mean, I can't say enough great things about him, but he is more of the performance, data driven, e commerce, looking at sales, and I'm more of the brand filter. So there's definitely tension between us on those two things when we come up to it. But I think we always hear each other out and we ultimately can always find a middle ground. I think sometimes one of us concedes or one of us, or he can easily like, that's the difference between performance marketing and brand is he has the tangible, I have the intangible. So he can show me direct results of like, you may not like this ad, but it's performing really well, so we should keep it on for another few months. And then my, argument on the other side is like, okay, well, what's the best investment long term for our brand? What do we want to out there? And I know that like I've been speaking a lot about not having like giving up on control, but I do strongly believe in a big realm and theme of consistency is just so important when it comes to brands. So just always coming back and having that HEST filter, like, is our product being shown right? Is this, talking to our brand values and just making sure that it's not off brand. I mean, I'm totally open to experimenting new content with performance data and seeing what it will do. But I agree exactly with that tension. I think it's really healthy. I would not want to be on a marketing team or a team in general that was just like, green light, everything you do is great. Like, I don't want that. I want people to give me feedback and tell me why they think that it's, should be tweaked or changed, or maybe it's wrong. Like, that we're only going to grow as if we get constructive feedback. So I feel like we have a really close knit team at HEST. We're a pretty small team, but there's a lot of marketing topics that I just pass by and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, I want your feedback. What do you think? Even if you're in finance or you're in the warehouse or your customer service, like, we're all speaking to the same brand. We're all building this together. So I think it's really important. And plus, like, I want them to be proud to work at HEST. Like, I want them to stand behind what we're producing as a brand for content. Like, I want them to be like, identify with it and be like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, I totally like appreciate what you're creating, and that totally resonates with the brand that we're working for. So it's really important to have like buy-in from the whole team. But I do appreciate that tension, and we do experience that for sure. And I think that's completely healthy.
It seems like there's always tension between performance and brand marketing, and I understand why, but I also don't understand why they can't get along better and why, this working towards a middle ground of brand formance can't be I don't know. Is it I don't want to say it's not attainable or like brands don't do it, because brands do it. But like, what's the best example you've seen of brand and performance like working side by side, working really strong together, either at your time with Hest or at previous roles?
I think I'm so intimate with it with HEST just because it's probably been one of the more stronger D2C brands that I've worked with, which I think when you bring in D2C and e-commerce definitely has a bigger place at the table in terms of like working together. An example of what works well is I do think that content is a shared piece that we work on together. Like, I will be the one that creates the creative brief and do a lot of the pre-production work with the photo shoot and kind of set the vision for it. But I always love to have John, like, we're doing a shoot next week together for one product, and I have him there on right next to me. Like, he is, yes, I need it vertically for this. I need it. He's thinking like web banners. He's thinking like paid ads. And I'm thinking like, okay, what are the bigger brand assets that we're going to use for this? So to have us work side by side in tandem when we're creating content is so important. And he's like always on his iPhone capturing vertical video wherever we can use it, and I'm directing the photographer and then the videographer. So I think like content is a great place that we can both work together on, to kind of, brand performance or brand tension, however you coined that. I think that's a good place to start.
Well, it seems like there's this idea out there, maybe it's a myth, maybe it's not, that performance erodes brand and brand doesn't support performance, and they're seen as like these two. It's like water and oil, They don't want to mix. At least that's how I interpret it and how I hear about it. But it seems like they could be working so much better together. And I guess I'm just speaking generally. I don't know. What have you seen out there in the industry?
I mean, speaking on behalf of a startup, like you can't survive with one or the other. I could see that tension just building and building with bigger brands, and especially when you bring in like corporate policies and, certain things that really affect bigger brands. I could see that tension bubbling to even a bigger challenge. But I feel like with a startup, like I couldn't we couldn't survive without performance marketing, and performance marketing couldn't survive without brand. Like they are so necessary. Like it's the yin and the yang, and like finding that, happy medium between the two is just so important. So I deeply, deeply value the tools and the tactics and the data and everything that we can gain from performance marketing. I think in my career, it's just been exponential how much that has grown. I think that the key is just like not being so influenced by the numbers all the time that you're just chasing what that is, and just still believing in the intangible of the brand and the power of the brand and the power of being creative. Like you always need to be creative when it comes. That's the freedom of the brand side, is that you're going to create new content, you're going to create new campaigns, new messaging, and you're going to test it. And then performance is going to tell you over time, like, if that's going to work or not. And I think just having an adaptable team that's willing to take those chances and those risks on the brand side, and then learning from it on the performance side.
How important or not important is brand in a startup?
I mean, you're talking to someone that spent her career in brands, so obviously I'm gonna say that it's very important. But luckily, I have a team that also really believes in brand. I mean, anyone can go and create the same products. I mean, there's patents in place for sure, but knockoffs happen all the time. People can always create a product at a reduced price. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that community and that brand experience that you've built, like you cannot replicate brand. If you really invest in brand and you follow through with what your vision is, what your mission is, and create the right content that reflects that, and then the community that creates from that, like that you cannot buy. And that is why brand is so important from day one. And in continuing to invest in brand is so important, because no one can take that away from you. They can take your
Mm.
products away from you, or they can rip it off, or they can duplicate it, or they can create something better, or they can try to, but they can't take brand away.
One of the things that I've noticed and heard is just like HEST has such a great community of people out there. Huge supporters, huge fans who are willing to advocate and share the product and spread the product around to people who don't know about it. And one of the elements that's so necessary for like owned content, branded content, is a really strong community. And you've got the community piece, and I know you guys have done some branded content projects. You've started doing the Rigs We Dig series, which seems like it's a great idea, and it's a cool concept. People seem to be liking it. What are other ways that you would like to try and create more content around and for your community? Like you've done the hard part, building the community. Now, how can you produce content to reach that community further?
Yeah, I think always bringing in our community wherever we can. We have created Hestival, which is not content, but it is an event. It's an annual festival where we went out in Apple Orchard in Colorado. And to me, like I come from the event world, I used to have an experiential agency. And while it may not have the reach that content has or that paid social has, that it does create a lot of amazing content for us because it is our community. So we gather and we do a 3-day camping weekend with a ton of activities. And that has just been blossomed into like a really beautiful annual experience that I think is just so important for our community because there's so many online forums that you can join. And I think that, we have our Facebook group and, we have a great community on social media and you can do all of these digital things. But until you actually like go camping with your customers and like share that experience with them, there's really nothing that can replicate the power of that. And like understanding their like hearing from them and their feedback. Like I love going to events too. I think we invest in a lot of events and showing up around the nation wherever we can because our products are so experiential. Like once you try our foam, people are like, oh my gosh, I have to go sleep on this. Like, I don't know why I've been sleeping on an air mattress, but they'll switch. But the best part is like seeing that community show up at these events and they literally like sell the products for me. These customers come up and they're like, oh my gosh, you have to get this. You have to get this. Like, we do this and it fits in here. And I just take a step back and I'm like, all right, promise I'm not giving this person commission, but they're selling it for it. So yeah, I know I didn't really answer your question about content, but I do think that showing up in your communities experientially allows you to understand your community better and thus like understand the customer and create content for them and hear their feedback and what they're saying and being inspired by them because we're all, working remotely, we're all working behind these screens, we're all like looking at other content that other brands are comparing themselves to and thinking that we need to go do this and that. But like when you just sit back and you listen to your community and you see how they interact with your products and your brand, you become way more inspired to want to create for them, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I mean, the first step of creating anything that's worthwhile is knowing who you're creating it for. I mean, you've got such like an awesome way to meet those people, to interact with them, to get to know them, knowing what you know about your community. And in a perfect world, like what would you want to create for them? What ideas have you guys kicked around before?
Going back to like that health and wellness and just like tapping into that emotion of being outdoors and sleeping well. Like our tagline is play more, sleep well. And it's simple, but there's a lot of depth to that too, because you go outside to play or to relax or whatnot, but like you really like can't do that unless you sleep well. I think that like the science is there. And if anyone will tell you if you have a good night's sleep, like you're just gonna perform better the next day. Like, it's the best like performance enhancing drug naturally that there is sleep. So I think just tapping into that emotion of like and creating content of like if you sleep well in the outdoors, so you're not even at like the hustle bustle of your own home or your own job, but you're out in nature, whether that's in your van, your camper, a ground tent, cowboy camping under the stars, and you sleep well and you wake up and you can take in the power and beauty of the outdoors, like, imagine how much that could change people's perspectives.
I had a crazy idea while you're just talking, and I don't know if this has anything, but I was like, what if? Okay, bear with me. What if for a content series, it was live streams of people sleeping for 8 hours in the outdoors? Like those Netflix. You can like turn on a fireplace on
Totally.
Netflix, and like it would be something like that. It'd be like this beautiful scenery, this like an epic location, and then it's someone just sleeping for 8 hours, and like it's real. Like that, I don't know. I don't know who would
That'd
watch
be
that for
great.
8 hours, but it'd be pretty intriguing.
Could be in the background, like but yeah, if
Yeah.
anyone out there has a connection with Aura Ring, I'd love like a partnership with them because I'd love to test our product with Aura Rings in the outdoors and how well
Ooh.
sleep people sleep well because, a lot of people talk about their sleep scores in the morning and I have a feeling that Hess would be pretty competitive when it came to the sleep score. So,
That's a great idea.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I want to come back to an idea. So yesterday, I had an intro call with the chief brand officer at Satisfy, the running company, and he was talking about the distinction internally that they use of language. The idea of they call their customers guests, and they never refer to them as customers. They refer to them as guests because well, there's a lot of reasons why he talked about, and I'd recommend folks tuning into that episode if they want to learn
Okay.
why. But there's something about the idea of hospitality, something about the idea of comfort, about creating an experience for an individual as a guest versus a customer. And I was thinking about HEST, like you guys are the equivalent of like a hotel outside. Um, if you thought about your customers as guests, and maybe you do, how would that change um, how you interact or how you build community with them?
I love that. That's a great idea. Yeah, we joke that my brother-in-law calls it "Welcome to the Hest Western," like the Best Western. And my other friend says, "Oh, I just had another best night of sleep or Hess night of sleep." So we joke about that. But I do love thinking about it as a guest. I think that we are very community focused, community driven. We definitely value the feedback of our customers. The customer is always right. But reframing it to a guest is I really like that. That's a great idea. And for sure, I think that we do want people to like check into the Hess Western and have a great experience and write a 5-star, review afterwards. So I love that reframing. I think that's a really great idea, and I do think that we do our best to treat our customers the best we can. I mean, we have a 100-day night guarantee. So if you sleep on our mattress 100 nights and you don't like it, we'll take it back, no questions asked. So we understand it's a big investment and purchase, but we also know that like there is no price tag when it comes to good sleep. It's so important. So yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. I never considered that before, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to take note of that."
yeah,
That's a
I love
good
that.
mental shift to consider.
Yeah, thanks
Um,
for sharing.
what's a brand you admire who is currently doing things quote unquote the wrong way, but they're performing really well. Like they're breaking all of the best practices. Maybe they're pursuing worst practices, but it's interesting. It's engaging. Is there anyone out there that you're noticing?
That's a good question. I mean, I've always just laughed at the marketing at Pit Viper. I think it's hilarious. I have some brands or friends that have worked there before. They've blown up, but I guess I'm referring to like their earlier ages of marketing when they were first coming out and like rollerblading on the floors of SIA and just like bringing a boombox and like just not really like, totally just zigging when everyone was zagging and just being something totally different and ridiculous. And, I just admire brands that can really nail humor. I think I talked about this on the last call. Like, it's really hard to nail humor. Like, if you have a good, I remember I was following like Marine Layer, that apparel company, lifestyle company out of California. And they had the most hilarious copywriters. Like, I wanted to open up their newsletter every time. And then the copywriter I guess, left, and they were putting the job description on a newsletter, and they said that their copywriter was moving to France, and they're like, "You cannot like French people, you cannot like croissants, and you cannot like champagne because we can't lose you to France like our last copywriter." And it was just like so funny. And I will say, like, their copy is good, but it's not as good as this copywriter that like apparently moved to France. And it just like it kind of captured my eyes and my attention because of their humor. So I really appreciate and value a brand that can nail humor. And I guess like that's not doing it wrong in your way that you're asking that question, but it is hard to like depend on one person that's a humorous copywriter that they're going to stay there forever because now everyone's turning to chat gbt for copy and trying to personalize it and make it sound like them or sound like they wrote it. But I just really like, I think that humor is irreplaceable and it's like really hard to find. So if you find a humorous copywriter, you should promote them
And hang on to them.
and hang on to them. Yes.
What's something you used to believe about brand building that you no longer believe to be true outside of this concept of maintaining control?
I think that I had someone, we work with Kevin Luby. He's now at High Camp Flask. He's brilliant, but I think I was like doing this really meticulous go to market plan and like I had to make sure that everything was right. Like in every like the T's were dotted and the I's were or the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted and everything was buttoned up. And he kind of just told me on the phone, he's like, "You know what? 80% is good enough. Like, just ship it. Like, you got it. Like, just go with it. Like, it's better to, get it out there and learn from it than like be 100% perfect, because it's never going to be 100% perfect. Like there's going to be something that, needs to be tweaked or changed or feedback, or someone may not like the color or whatever. I think in the world of like e-commerce and D2C and like the fast paced like world that we're living in with like social media and everything, is like just get it out there and like learn from it.
One of the things we've been doing lately on the show is this idea of wrapping up around the concept of failure, and sharing things that we haven't done so well, things that we failed at, things that we're learning. What are some things that you have failed at that have been good learning experiences?
I think that our third annual festival was probably the most difficult thing I've done in my career. We had amazing first 2 years, epic weather, just like great music, all the things. And the third year, it was the worst weather ever. It just rained and rained and rained. I remember my friends' kids came and they were just like full of mud. And I was like, oh my gosh, she has to camp with them tonight. And then there was a bridge. It's like in the western slope of Colorado. And we had a lot of people coming from like Crested Butte and Gunnison. And this bridge that's been there for like 50 years decided to like that it was like not engineerily like sound for people to cross. So we like lost a lot of customers through that. And then our headliner for the Saturday night headliner show didn't make it from Stagecoach. She was sick. And so I had to cancel the headliner show. And it was just like one thing after another. And I just crawled in our HEST van and cried. I was like, this is like the worst experience. I want this to go away so badly. Like, and I like remember I left. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing Festival. This is like the worst idea. I just blew my marketing budget. Like, it's just, but then I got all this feedback that the community who showed up that weekend had the best time. Like, they're like, that is so great. I'm coming back next year. And so, slowly every month, like people would be like, timidly, like, how do you feel about Festival? Like vendors and like the venue and my coworkers. And I was like, I don't know. I can't talk about it. I just can't talk about it. Too much PSD. I can't do it. And so then finally I was like, okay, like I'm open to doing it. And we planned our fourth annual, which was this last May. And we threaded the needle with the weather, but it was 75 and sunny. The music was amazing. Just everything, the vibe was like so on point. And I was like, okay, this is why we do this. And like, I got over the trauma of that third year. I think it will always kind of be in the back of my mind of things that can go wrong at events. But I would say that that was like one of the harder things. It just like was out of my control. Like, honestly, it was like weather and musicians and like all these things. But
And bridge
um,
failure, yeah.
the bridge failure, like just everything was an epic fail, but it wasn't. And, my team was so positive and reminded me that like, we had a great time. Everyone we talked to had a great time, like, and it was those people that showed up and proved that it is about like this community that's making this experience so positive. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. As we start to wrap up, what are some questions that you're asking yourself? Questions that you're curious about?
I think, yeah, just like that, questions of like not how to not dilute your brand, but how to have a greater reach. Like, I want to, with our Pro Travel Pillow, I think it's like, I'm biased, but I think it's the best product we make. I fall asleep like in the middle row on an airplane all the time. But like, I want to be able to tap into that customer who's in the middle seat and wants to sleep well on a 5-hour flight, but maybe doesn't camp or is turned off by camping or intimidated by it. So I want to create this channel of content and acquisition where we can speak to that customer and they don't land on our website and be like, oh, I'm not a camper. I don't, this is not me. I'm going to go away. Like, I want to capture that person, have them try that Pro Travel Pillow and be like, oh my God, yeah, this is amazing. I'm going to gift it to everyone for Christmas because we all fly and we all need to go places. So I think that's like something top of mind for me, is to just like capture these audience and these customers who can value a good night's sleep. But it doesn't have to be, we don't have to be this like, they don't have to be a hardcore outdoor enthusiast. So, but again, towing that line of like not diluting our brand and like staying true to who we are, but tapping into like more customers that way. So that's definitely on my mind for sure.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So,
MJ, if you had to summarize the conversation and summarize some of the insights and things that we've chatted about for folks, how would you wrap it up?
well, I think that talking about the control issue, I mean, I don't know, maybe people have gotten by in their lives with not having expectations and not trying to control, but I guarantee if you're in a director position and you've grown brands before, you do have that sense of control. And I think that allowing yourself to just like take a step back and listen to the people around you and more importantly to your community and like you can keep control through consistency and your values and what the brand is that you're building. But I think there's a lot to be learned if you just like take a step back and learn from everyone around you. So I think that's really important. Gosh, what else did we talk about? I think just being open to creating new content and seeing how it goes and performing it, but using it for performance. I mean, we don't have a huge budget and, but we still definitely have the freedom to have creativity and try new things. And I think that's always important, especially when, you're trying to grow a brand and show up in different places. I don't think events are dead. I know that events have kind of like died down and I mean, I will die on this sword, but I do just feel like experiential is so important. Like, and you're not going to be able to report to the CFO like numbers of like, sure, you can sell products at these events, but like for us, it may take that person who just discovered our brand at this event. It may take them 60 to 100 days to like come back and decide. It may take them 2 years to come back, but like we made that impression on them and it's so important. So I just feel like in this digital world, like in-person, face-to-face experiences with brands that are truly just like not about selling the product, but just getting to know that person and them getting to know you and what you stand for and like the products that you've built and what you're displaying. Yeah, I love like in-person events. I think that they're so powerful. And I think that it's important for brands to keep doing that.
Incredible. MJ, thanks so much for the time. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. If folks want to follow along with you or with HEST, where can they find you?
Yeah, I am not the most active on LinkedIn, but I'm there. That was my New Year's resolution to be more active on LinkedIn. So I replied to your DM, which I felt good about. But I am on there at MJ Carroll. And you can search me through HEST or also like not as active on social media as I used to, but I'm at MJners on Instagram. So, or if anyone has collaboration or ideas or anything you want to reach out to, I'm happy to, email is mj@hest.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And yeah, maybe just leave it to this. Sounds like there's some cool things on the horizon for HEST. So stay tuned because there's some neat stuff rolling out
Absolutely.
in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks,
Cole. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.